was it.
That's it. Yeah, yeah, exactly right.
All right.
We ready to go?
Yep. Wayne Sawchuck here.
Yeah, no, well, I'll start. All right, so I'll open the meeting at, what is it? 10:32, President Bill McGowan, Lisa McGonigal, Dan Coughlin, Wayne Sawchuck, Paul Kearse. And we have others as well that I can see here on the list. So I know we've got a couple of things. We wanted to go over the, let me just, before we do anything, let me just figure out when we can do another meeting here. Although, when do we have the next one scheduled? Next week, is it?
So we talked about, I haven't scheduled it yet, but we talked about CJC going on next Tuesday.
Right, okay. So that'll be June 1, right?
Yep.
Okay.
At 10?
Yeah, 10 o'clock would be fine.
Would you mind making it either Wednesday or Thursday? Because I have a huge amount of things to do on the 1st of the month because of the holiday the day before and everything.
I will not be around. I'm actually taking some time off.
Yeah.
You are?
Yes. Oh, I'll be in the morning on Wednesday morning.
How's that? Yeah. Could you do it?
Yeah, as far as I know, I'm going to be around. So,
Paul?
All set, yeah.
Rod?
So Wednesday instead of Tuesday.
Yeah, Wednesday the 2nd at 10 o'clock. Right?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
As far as the meeting minutes, I think I sent you my approval. I don't know whether anybody else did, Lisa.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, I can look at them, but I thought I did.
No, I think you did too. I don't think anybody else did.
Okay. Well, there's homework for everyone else. And we can get right into the permit as far as public comment. I don't know if we've had any.
So that was to Wayne and Paul about the meeting minutes for the past 2 meetings.
Yeah, so I read through them. I was fine. I thought we were voting to accept them today. That's all.
Yeah. So can
Wayne, are you good?
accept them?
Yeah, I don't know if we have to approve. I mean, a vote to approve them. It's just we're, agreeing to the language. What was done. I mean, because we have a recording of each of the sessions anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I'm fine with the meeting minutes.
Yeah. All right. Should we go to the permit?
That's the letter that was sent out.
Yeah, I believe it was. Yes.
Yep.
Right, from Dan.
Yeah.
Right.
Any comments or?
No, no, not really. No, that's good.
It read fine. I don't.
Have you sent it out yet, Dan?
No, you gotta sign it, Bill, and then send it to me and I'll forward it.
Okay.
Are we going to sign the additional one down in, jump on board with a couple of other towns that were sending one or not?
Entirely up to you. I mean, you can voice jump on board with the other letter. I also contacted Merrimack. They'd like to see our response as well. Merrimack, Mass.
Yeah, so I know we were sending this one in as a direct response on our own, and then I don't know if the other towns were pursuing us to sign their letter as well or not. So,
Okay. Do we want to? We're signing as the commissioners, but do we want to have Brian Joyce and/or Chris Senior to have a letter or something going also, or doing a little amendment to this that says, I've looked at it and I approve it also, or something to give more signatures to it? Or no?
We could ask. I mean, Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, no, happy to do that, but I'll defer to you guys. I think the more I don't know what the word is.
The higher up you go, to me, it's sort of what I'm looking looking at is, if I can get the president to sign off also,
Sure.
but certainly ours should go in, because I think it's important to send them in so that anybody else that's interested can see what it is that's happening, and then you could say, almost duplicated type of thing, and you sign it also, and Chris.
Sure. I think
Is
it's-
it a
And
hard-
you could prepare that would be fine too, in terms of, or any special areas of it, of concern that make it, positive. It's almost like even have the harbor master sign off on it or anything else so that everybody's comfortable.
Is it a hard deadline of the 25th?
Yes. Has to be in today.
You can send them in electronically?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can get done today.
Whose
do you wanna-
action item is that?
Well, I'm wondering, does the town hall use the DocuSign program at all?
No, really. No.
I mean, I can come down around noon and sign it, Lisa. I don't know if they would take electronic signatures, for anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, can you just print it, sign it, and scan it? No?
Actually, I am working from home and, doing the meeting from home. On my way in, Bill, I can stop by your office. I have a copy.
Well, I can also print it out and sign it myself. Just,
Okay.
give it to you if you want.
Just do that and scan it and send the scan copy in, that's all.
Yeah.
Right, that's all they need.
So what
Yeah.
I'll do, I'll just sign it, Lisa, and send it back to you. All right.
Okay. Sounds good.
Send it right back to
And then as far as the additional signatures that we were just talking about, whose action item would that be
Would
to?
that be a separate letter or?
Well, can we send, I mean, if we send this in to make the deadline, can we send another one in as sort of, additional support for our position, that kind of thing?
You certainly can, but it has to be in by today to be considered.
Yeah, I can draft, I don't know what Chris's schedule's like today, but I can draft a little cover letter or something we would draft. But I mean, the substance of our comments are in the one that you're signing, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, one aspect from the town manager's perspective might be financial. The financial impacts are a big, limited income on the sewer commission. So, I mean, you could address it from a different perspective if you wanted to.
Yeah, and Brian, can Tracy sign on behalf of Chris?
No.
Well, you might,
Back him now. And submission via email. Is there an email there?
for the letter.
Yes.
Yeah, it's right in the MPDS documents.
Okay. So I think if we get the two letters and scan them and send them in as either as one PDF, I think that would probably make sense. Lisa.
Okay, so I'll touch base with you later today, Brian.
Yeah. When you come in, I'll have something drafted and I'll track Chris down. I'll sign it. He can sign it, and then we can just put it in front or behind your memo.
And I think for the board, if everyone can sign themselves and then send it in, so we'll as you said, we can just send one PDF document with a few different signatures on it. All right.
You're going to sign as the chairman, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd be happy to run down and sign it, anything else too, but
All right. Well, then, yeah, we don't have to overkill it, but anyway, just what I was also going to think we could do. We've got about 15 minutes before the National Grid discussion, and I know that Rod has had a conversation with Shannon's attorney regarding Diab Lane. And Rod, do you want to throw a few things out and then we can hear what's going on?
And Mr. Attorney Ryder is actually on.
Oh.
I just promoted him.
Okay. Rod, are you with us?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Uh, The commission had issued sewer connection permits for 3 of the lots that Matthew Shannon owns on Diab Lane. And then they were going to a closing on one of the lots, I think number 3. And the finance department indicated that outstanding real estate taxes were owed on all 3 of the Diab Lane lots. And so at the request of the town manager, I sent a letter revoking the 3 sewer connection permits. It's pursuant to a town bylaw that was adopted in pursuant to a state statute that permits the withdrawal of permits if other amounts are owed to the town. The attorneys confabbed yesterday, and I understand from the buyer's attorney that the closing is now scheduled for this Friday, and that at that closing, if they requested that I send a letter indicating, if the commission approves, indicating that the 3 permits will be reissued if the outstanding taxes on the 3 Diab Lane lots are paid. It's a total of just a little over $11,000, the outstanding taxes on the three lots. And so I don't know if Attorney Ryder has anything to add, but that resolution makes sense to me. And so if the commission would approve, I will send such a letter for the closing attorney, and at the closing, this $11,000 bill will be paid.
I did have a couple questions, if that's appropriate. I mean, my first question was, did the sewer commission actually take a vote and revoke, or was this just an action of the town manager?
It was a request of the town manager, as I said.
And then there was a vote taken by the commission to revoke the permits?
No.
Okay.
But at the same time, I mean, if the town manager tells us, we have to follow a certain law or edict, we have to follow it.
I mean, the other question, and I will respectfully ask, and if Mr. Hoffman wants to defer on this to maybe a private telephone conversation between us. I thought the law made it fairly clear that the permittee had to get 14 days prior notice and a hearing before a revocation could take place on this. Is that not your understanding?
I don't know about that one.
I'm not sure.
Okay. The last issue I wanted to raise is if we do pay these real estate taxes and get the 3 permits reissued, is this going to happen again for the other 2 lots that aren't being sold?
Well, isn't it a case here of an individual paying their bills and following the law?
Well,
Meaning,
go ahead.
I mean, he goes ahead and does something else that he doesn't pay for or whatever. And then this happens?
Well, we have what the big question here is not the real estate taxes, which will be paid out of the closing. The issue here is that we have in front of the Quincy District Court right now a dispute about some fines that were levied on an entirely different property. by the Conservation Commission. And I don't want to, and I don't know if those were intended to be part of the town manager's revocation, but I really do not want to put my client in a position where he pays the taxes, he gets the 3 permits reissued, and then we close, and then the town manager once again revokes the permits for the other 2 lots based on those disputed claims.
I have one quick question. That is, Matt said that he was going to build 3 houses, and I asked him if he was going to be selling any of the lots, and he said no. But then all of a sudden he's got a closing and he's selling a lot. What is the story behind that?
Well, at the point when that question came up, he was intending to hang on to them and was intending to develop all 3. And then he got an offer that had provided some cash flow that he needed, so he took it.
So is he selling 1 lot and building on 2 more, or is that
That's the present intention, yes.
present? But that probably won't happen.
I mean, I think that's what's going to happen, but obviously it's like this. The last time you asked, that was the intention for 3 lots, and then he got an offer he couldn't refuse. If he gets an offer he can't refuse on the other 2, I don't know, but his current discussion and his current plan is to develop those other 2 lots himself.
And of course, the way it's going, he's not going to meet the next deadline. He has to have, because there's a deadline for when he will have to pay the fair price for him, right? That was
Yeah, I think it was 6 months from May, whenever the issuance was.
It was September the 15th, I believe.
Yes, I think that's right.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw a couple of cents in here, my 2 cents, based on the fact we have to get off the call in 10 minutes or 11 minutes. Is that I don't really think that the sewer board should be involved in this. I mean, we made our decisions. We have been, I think, more than patient on this subject. And, we were directed by the town that he owed taxes. I don't know whether the situation off of 3A is going to affect anything else. I don't know that. I think we could maybe, Rod, you could ask Chris if that's the case. But I don't think the sewer, in fact, I'm kind of strong on the fact that the sewer board should not be involved in a situation where we're getting between a buyer and a seller, period. And we have expressed the course of action. We have been directed by the town that these permits cannot be used until taxes have been paid. I think it's a pretty simple equation. Pay the taxes and you get them back. And I think the only thing we have to do is look at, have Rod talk to Chris and see if we can actually issue those, and then or if the issue that is being in the Quincy District Court is going to take, we're going to come back to this again. So Rod, if you could do that, I think that's basically what we have to do.
And
I
then
will do that and get back to you, Steve.
Okay, and Rod, in terms of the timing, if the town manager is the one who revoked the permits, does he have the authority to unrevoke them? Or do we have to have another meeting at the sewer commission?
I would suggest that the commission today confirm the reissuance of the permits, or what you need to go to closing.
I'm not so Rod. I'm not going to disagree with you, but I mean, isn't this somewhat of a conditional sort of a lever action? The taxes are paid, so the permits can be revived. Isn't that how it goes?
It's not perfectly clear. I would just recommend that the commission take its action.
We're taking action on no action. I mean, the town manager suspended the permit, and which is the sole authority of the sewer commission, not the town manager. If the town has a policy they should have put a lien on the property to collect the taxes. I don't know that the town has the right to override the sewer commission issuance of a permit. I didn't see how that was clear. So it seems to me that we issued a permit. If the town's going to put a lien on the property, then they should put a lien on the property. I don't know where the town manager solely could suspend permits across town. I don't know what we're voting on.
Oh, it's a case of I think, and Rob probably has it, but the exact language of the law, I think, says that permits will not be issued unless this is done. They were issued, but I don't know if in fact they can then, you know, if I got a building permit on Monday and I had to pay money over here, would they take my building permit away? Or would they say, you have to pay it before you're going to get the next step, before I can give you an occupancy permit, or
Yeah,
before I can do this and that? So
There's no language.
Chris should be the one that determines what he wants to do.
Yeah, it shouldn't be us. I don't think it's us at all. I mean, we can't.
Because we didn't revoke it in a vote. Because it's like not our business, in a way. I mean, it is it's whatever the rules are for. And I know at a closing, you end up having a, municipal lien certificate. So with the municipal lien certificate, it's going to say that money's owed for this, this, and this. The attorney at the closing and the buyer and the seller have to say, okay, in order for the closing to go through, this money has to be set aside for this, right? I don't.
Exactly.
The current municipal lien certificate shows the taxes owed on 3 Diab Lane.
Is that the lot that they want to pass on?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
And
So Rod, maybe you just have a quick conversation with Chris and find out, what can happen on this, and because again, I don't see us getting involved in this. Just don't.
yeah, well, it seems as though the money has to be set aside, and then they continue, and then the new owner is going forward.
All right.
I will confirm with Chris and then call you, Steve.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for,
Thank you, Steve, for coming in.
yeah, I'm sorry to bother you with this again.
You have a tough job, but
Hopefully you'll never hear about the plane.
thank you.
Thank you.
So Brian, are you setting up a call, or?
I'm sorry, I was on the other line. What,
Are they calling in, or?
Yeah, they
Zoom?
should be calling in. They got an invite.
Yep.
Oh, hey, are you talking demand response?
Yes.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, I misunderstood what you said. Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
How are you?
Good. So I guess you guys are ready for me. Should I just dive in, or are we waiting for anybody else?
Yeah.
Is
I think-
Mike coming? Michael Skinner?
Mike Skinner with National Grid. I thought he said he might be here at 11. But I can get rolling without him, or we can wait 5 minutes. It's your call.
Yeah, I think, Phil, if you have all the details on what demand response is and what you offer, just kind of a general overview, and then how, based on your research, how it pertains to the sewer plant and what the sewer department can do.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. And yeah, so I know that Mike Skinner at National Grid, he reached out to Lisa about some of these programs, and I'm one of the authorized vendors for demand response here in New England. I work for a company called C-Power, and what I do is I learn about large power users in New England, and I learn about your usage flexibilities, and I connect you with market revenues. So my goal today is to learn about your facility, or more, I'll talk about the programs, and if it makes sense, I can dive a little bit deeper in the sewer facility, and then connect you with those revenues. I am the C-Power. We're the state-approved vendor through the DCAM contract. So it's a ENE 51 is the OSD user guide, and I work with cities and towns all across Massachusetts. We work with all the court buildings, all the state buildings, the prisons, and then I have about 30 municipality or cities and towns I work with across the North Shore and all across Massachusetts. So I work with a lot of people in your space. So I'm looking forward to just learning about your facility and talking about these programs and seeing if you're a fit. Can somebody allow me to share screens? I have a little short deck here. Visual aid usually kind of helps here. If the admin can allow me to share, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Okay, so you should be able to.
There it is. I got it. Thank you very much. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So let me put, where's my laser pointer? There. Okay. So really, interestingly enough, the first step, I want to really understand what your facility is doing. And typically, for a facility of your size, you have an interval meter to count from National Grid. In this case, it's actually surprising. You guys actually have a summary meter account. So there is actually no 15-minute data for your load. So the only thing I was able to see is what your peak usage are. And so for a typical sewer plant, you're typically running very consistent throughout the year. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, but your average load or average peak is about 200 kW. And so if I look at, well, you're not always at your peak load, what is your average load at? You're probably around 150 kW. That's typically where you're running. It's a pretty consistent load. And so at this point, I typically want to kind of can I ask, should I go through the presentation or can I ask questions about the sewer, about the operations of the facility now, or how would you like to do that? I'm flexible. I'm happy to walk through it, but I'd love to kind of ask a few questions about the facility. Would that, can I do that, or should I just kind of walk through here?
I think, yeah, whatever your preference is, in my opinion. I don't know if the board has different.
Yeah, so I mean, so this sewer facility, is it running around the clock 24/7, or are there certain times where it's busier than others? I'm just curious looking at this load here.
So,
Yeah, 24/7, but typically.
24/7? Okay, and then if you had some type of short notice call, hey, we're close to a blackout, do you have the flexibility to maybe shut off some pumps or something? Or I know some facilities, oh yeah, we can handle disruption for a couple hours, and some it's like, oh my gosh, if I turn anything off, I'm going to get backlogged and I can't get out of the hole. I mean, do you feel that this facility might have some usage flexibilities if there was a day ahead notice and a couple hours of disruption? Is that going to cause angst on the equipment or the facility?
In my opinion, the only options we have is to switch over to an emergency generator that's on site. Gotcha.
Okay, so load shedding might be tricky, which for sewer, I've seen that. So that my question would be, is how old is that generator? Is it like a 2010, 2005? Do you have an idea of the age of that unit?
2000.
2000?
Probably 1999 constructed.
Okay. So we'll have to look and see if that generator is eligible. Some background, all generators are not equal in regards to emissions. So if generator is the play for the sewer plant, then we're gonna have to do some homework and just see if it meets certain emissions levels. So we don't need to solve all that now, but if generator you feel is the play, then we can kind of analyze what the potential is. Do you guys have any solar, cogen, fuel cell, any distributed generation at the plant or anywhere in Cohasset?
Yes.
Anything?
The old landfill, we have a solar.
I was gonna. So that's probably in front. That's not behind the meter. That's probably in front of the meter project if it's on a landfill. It's not physically lowering. It's probably pushing. The solar is probably pushing back out to the grid. It's not like covering a large facility. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's helpful.
The generator is on natural gas.
Okay.
Rather than diesel.
So
that usually helps the emissions, right?
It does. So it's a 1999 natural gas, and I mean, do you have an idea of the size? I mean, what do you think? Probably is 500 kW? Is that, or 400? What do you think the size is?
Under 500.
Okay. Okay, so that's something we can look at. So I'll kind of talk about all these programs in the lens of using the generator, but make it very clear. I need to analyze the emissions and see if it's allowed to play. So thank you for that. And so I'll go through the program. So I'm going to skip ahead here, and it's a little bit of an eye chart here, but I'll make this as painless as possible. Really, what is demand response? It's curtailing in short notice and helping to safeguard the grid from blackouts. And the main flagship program we have here in New England is called the ADCR program. And this program is run by ISO New England. Think of that ISO New England, think of them as air traffic control for the grid. If ISO New England says, oh shoot, we're close to a potential blackout, they're going to call people to shed their load or transfer their load to properly permitted generators within 30 minutes. And essentially you stay down until you get the all clear that we're past the blackout condition. And for this program, minimum requirements is a 1 hour test in the summer and a 1 hour test in the winter. So if you get involved in this program, you're guaranteed to have 2 1 hour curtailments per year. So this doesn't call often. In regards to real blackouts, real event situations, we've only had 2 real events in the last 6.5 years. So think about this ADCR 30-minute notice program is 2 to 5 hours a year. It's always going to be 2 hours for testing. Maybe you get a real 3-hour event. That doesn't happen often. And you could be down anyway, because this is kind of the first line of defense for a potential blackout. Do you guys have any questions on 30-minute program? Does that make sense, kind of in a nutshell? Okay. And then so the other program, and this is the program that Mike Skinner, National Grid, that he kind of brought up to you guys. There's a second program, and National Grid has a program called Connected Solutions. And you have the ISO New England program is here to help avoid blackouts on the grid. National Grid is trying to lower down during system peaks. So National Grid gave a stat that said the top 7% usage hours account for 25% of their energy costs. So if you can start to shave down that top 7% of usage hours, it's going to save money for everybody. So how this National Grid program works, it's a day ahead notice, and it's going to be a summer only program. So you're going to get a day ahead notice and say, hey, tomorrow between 3 and 6 or 4 and 7, please curtail your load. So you have a whole day to plan. You get a day ahead notice, and you curtail load, and you help avoid these system peaks that National Grid is setting during these hotter times during the summer. And National Grid maybe thinks 3 or 4 calls during the summer. Hey, it's going to get really hot. The grid's going to peak. We're going to call you 3 or 4 day ahead notices. Typically, the windows have been 3 to 6 or 4 to 7. Both these programs are additive. So you're doing the 1 hour test and the 30-minute notice for the ISO. You have a couple of day ahead calls, and these programs are helping during stressful times. So if you guys have green sustainable goals for 2021, this could cover that. And hey, we're doing our part to help safeguard the grid and get load off during these stressful times. And at the same time, you're making some money too. So it's not just, you're not just doing that for free. There's an incentive, and I'll go through some incentives in a second. And there's another piece of this that's very important. It's something called a cap tag. And unfortunately, your sewer your sewer plant is actually on a summary metered account, meaning that since it's not interval metered from National Grid, you can't take advantage of the cap tag. But some of your schools are actually summary metered or interval metered. So meaning that the cap tag is the 1 hour during the summer when the entire New England grid is peaking. Everybody's given a snapshot that 1 hour. And whatever you're doing during that 1 hour can set 30% of your power bill for the next year. So let me reiterate, 1 hour is worth 30% of your power bill. So your question is, can I lower it down? Yes, you can. And the next question is, well, how do you know when this hour is occurring? The National Grid program is predicting it for you. So again, that's going to be eligible for your schools that are on a interval metered account. But just an important piece of the pie here, there's a big savings in demand response where you lower your cap tag and save on that 1 hour that sets so much of your bill. Any questions on the programs on the 30-minute program or day ahead? Does that kind of make sense in a nutshell? Okay, I'll take the silence as I'm doing a perfect job. So another question we ask is, well, how do I know how much you guys curtailed? And what we actually do is we install a real-time data logger on your load, and we would actually pick up the real-time usage, and that's the red line. And then we would build a baseline. And that's the blue line. We look at the last 10 business days. Where was your facility at over the last 10 business days? That's gonna be your baseline. And then when an event's called, the red line is your drop, and the green arrow, this ends up being your performance. So the delta ends up being your performance. So we're tracking your load, and if you can transfer load to the generator, hey, you can see that load happening, drop happen in real time, and that will unlock your savings, and that's how the programs are tracked. And one of the cool things is that because we have to real-time monitor your sewer plant, we actually give you a website you can view your usage as well. So some people use this every single day and are obsessed with it. Some people don't use it at all, but sometimes it's a pretty powerful tool to kind of see what your facility is doing in real time. And if it's down or up or higher than usual or lower, you can kind of go in here and quickly assess if there's any issues going on. So that's the programs. And the last thing I want to talk about, well, what's the dollars look like? And so I broke it into the two programs. Again, there was a 30-minute notice program that was 2 to 5 hours a year. Based upon your 200 kW peak, 150 kW looked reasonable. And hey, if you can curtail your usage with your generator 2 hours a year, I mean, your generator is probably doing you're probably doing gen tests for 30 minutes every month anyway. If you can ramp up that generator twice a year, then over the next 5 years, you can earn $25,000 in the 30-minute program. Hey, here's 25 grand for exercising this generator for 2 hours a year. The other program is the National Grid Day Ahead program. And hey, can you turn on that generator 3 day ahead notices from 3 to 6 the next day? National Grid will pay you a check in the mail, $3,800 at the end of each summer. So if I kind of bring this all together, if you can ramp up this generator a handful of times during the summer, not too obtrusive, then the National Grid program as well as the ISO program can pay you about $44K over the next 5 years. It's not earth-shattering dollars based on the size of your facility, but if that generator is active and it's already transferring load a couple hours during the months anyway for testing, then this is a pretty easy way to unlock some revenues for the site and also help give you advanced warning that there's some type of potential blackout that's coming. So you're part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Now with our current bills at the sewer department will be about $1 million for the 5 years that you're going to save us $43,903. And so, is it worth it? I guess is one thing. And I assume your compensation comes from like an equal amount going to your company as to doing the work that you're doing, right?
Yeah, how I make
so whatever we get, you basically usually get, if it's a 50-50 split or something like that.
Yeah, for the DCAM contract, it's been pre-negotiated. It's a 72.5% revenue share. You guys earn 72.5. We earn the 27.5, and that's the only way we make money. These programs, if you don't perform, you basically don't get paid. You're never in a situation where you owe me money. And so it's the focus is, my goal is to, if it makes sense and the juice is worth the squeeze for you guys, we enroll you in the program and we unlock these revenues. And again, the ratio, you're paying $1 million over the next 5 years and here's 45K. This is not earth-shattering dollars, and I get it. And it's all relative to size and how big it is and how much you can curtail. Mm-hmm. But I guess my thought is, I mean, you huddle up and see if the juice is worth the squeeze for sure. But at the same time, I got to have to double check and see if the generator is eligible anyway. A typical school, I know that we're focused on the sewer commission here. The typical, when I look at a city and town, the largest users are usually the water, wastewater, the sewer plant, water treatment, and then the high school and the middle school. And typically, if I add up all those, I'm able to find maybe about 500 kW of curtailment when you add up everything. And 500 kW curtailment's worth about $250,000 over the next 5 years when you start stacking it. So I know this is solely just one piece in one program or two programs. So I think sometimes it makes the most sense to stack it with all your other eligible accounts that have the usage flexibility. But I get your point. In the grand scheme of things, this is not a make or break earning perspective, but it's It's what other towns are doing just to find different ways to find more offsets, right?
And how do you pay our share to us? What's the frequency and stuff like this?
Yeah, so for the 30-minute notice program, it's every quarter. You get a check in the mail every quarter. For the day ahead program from National Grid, it's a lump sum at the end of the summer.
At the end of the 5-year period?
At the end of summer number 1, like in November, you get a check for summer of 2021.
Right, and the check comes from you, right?
That comes from us.
Right.
And then, and this is a funny thing where if you sign up, you sign a W-9, not me. So you sign a W-9 so that I can send the money to you. Or if it's funky for me to send money, because of through the DCAM contract, we can put the money into an expendable trust, and that money can be allocated to you. So maybe that's a good way around not having to drop into the general fund and go into a place where you guys can actually spend it. So there's some flexibility in the DCAM contract to get that money in a way that you can actually take advantage of it, and it doesn't just go into the main fund and you never see it.
A couple of quick questions. First, can you send this presentation to us?
Of course.
And second, are there any penalties? The one thing I'm thinking that could potentially throw a wrench in this is we have people living very close to the plant, and like within say 50, 75 yards. And I'm thinking that the noise might be a burden to them, so we would have to stop it. Are there any penalties if we have to come to an abrupt stop on this, or?
Yeah, so ISO New England, for us, we have to get capacity in the forward capacity market, and we have to put up something called financial assurance to get that capacity. And if we don't perform 3 years later, they can take away our financial assurance and penalize us. So penalties exist, but we build our contracts with you that we absorb any type of downside risk. So Bill, the short answer to your question is there are no penalties for you. So if you don't perform, you basically don't get paid. And so obviously we have, well, not obviously, we have the largest portfolio in New England, so that we are protected by aggregation. So we have the school district down the road, the manufacturing facility up the street, the cement plant down around the corner, and all those add into our portfolio so that we're protected from any type of upside or downside that people can do. Okay. But I get it. If there's some penalty, you're going to say, "Hey, Phil, take a hike," but that's not the case here. We'll protect you from those.
Okay.
So I just have a couple of quick questions. Are there any upfront capital costs to do this? I know you still need to look at the generator and such, but upfront capital costs that are going to be taking out of those savings or earnings that you projected there?
Yeah, so there is a meter that we had to install, but it's taken out future DR revenues. It's a couple $1,000. It depends on the install. Maybe we can get it for a lot cheaper. I guess, but that meter, it's out of future DR revenues. So there's no out-of-pocket cost to you, and there continues to be no out-of-pocket cost. So if you sign up, the first thing what happens is you sign up and we get curtailment contacts and we start on metering, and then the money starts flowing when you start performing. You're never in a place where you have to send me money for any situation.
So that interval meter, if you could just go to that real-time chart you had there. So that's done with that one right there. So that's done with an interval meter, a 15-minute interval meter.
Yeah. So you guys don't have a 15-minute meter through National Grid, so that's fine. So I would have National Grid install a pulse output on your summary meter, and I would actually be counting the 5-minute intervals. So you would have a more granular view of your facility than National Grid would, because they just have a summary meter, and you would actually have 5-minute real-time visibility of your load. And we've seen that pretty powerful. I mean, not beyond just demand response, just being able to see what your load's doing during certain times. And hey, we did a facility shutdown, but then, hey, why is there still 50 kW on? Like, you think you shut everything off, but there's still stuff running. You probably won't see that unless you kind of had a meter that was reading everything in real time. So there's some pretty cool applications beyond just the demand response stuff.
So how many hours per year would we be running the generator? Are we looking at 10 hours, 20 hours a year total?
For the 30-minute program, 2 to 5 hours. For the day ahead program, National Grid, 9 to 12 hours. So at the end of the day, 15 hours of dispatch.
So
Typically,
in total for both programs, how many hours per year?
15 hours per year.
15, 1 5?
Yep.
Okay.
And then how often do you guys test the generator? Do you do like a test every month or every week? Do you guys have that scheduled already in?
So I'm just concerned about what our cost is to run the generator, because we know that the cost of natural gas has definitely gone up. And, you know, we're talking about contracted labor and, you know, running the generator, additional maintenance on the generator that we normally wouldn't have incurred. So I'm just curious as to what our, you know, maybe Ryan can help us out to understand what our internal cost would be to run a generator for 15 hours a year. You know, I don't know if it's $1,000 to run it for 15 hours. We're going to credit for 3,000, so you know our net is 2.
Yeah, I mean it's a valid question. I guess one thing I'll also say is that, well, if you're already doing, let's just say you already do an hour test every month, so you already built in 12 hours for testing, and maybe during these months you don't have to do that load test, and that you replace it with one of these calls, and that covers your testing requirement. So, but that doesn't cover all the months, obviously. So yeah, that's a valid question, and something you want to run on your end to make sure that it makes sense.
Well, our generator, according to Dan, is 20 years old, right?
Yeah, and
Now we're going to use it 15 hours more a year than we ever have before. So,
yeah, and I'm going to still have to analyze and see if this generator is eligible. My gut saying it's 50-50. You have a 50-50 shot of being eligible, but what I'll do is after this call, I'll send over this deck as you requested, and I'll send over an Excel spreadsheet to fill in the generator specs, and and we can check and see if the generator can play. Because I don't want to get you in any situation where you're going to get in trouble with the Mass DEP. We're very sensitive to making sure we're advising you to only use the generator if it's allowed to play, and I'll give you I'll give you an assessment if it can play or not. And if it can't, then maybe this program isn't a fit. But I guess I don't want you to have to run all these numbers if this generator is not eligible. So that's something I want to do and just confirm the eligibility. And then from there we can, I'll let you know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So a follow-up question on that. I thought I had read, is there, if it's not eligible, were there generator upgrades included in this program this time around? You know.
Yeah, I mean, so if the generator is not eligible, you can install an oxidation catalyst and crankcase ventilation, and you can essentially lower down the emissions to a level that allows for non-emergency. I would not advise in this situation because it is 20 years old, and based upon the dollars here that you potentially be earning, the ROI is not going to work good for this or work well. So I wouldn't advise you to put controls on, because then the numbers aren't going to work. Typically it works for something that's 1,000 kW of load. And the most important thing that's not eligible for this specific account is cap tag. Cap tag is a huge savings opportunity because it's 1 hour sets 30% of your power bill. And unfortunately, because your account is a summary metered account, this cap tag goes away for this specific one. So I showed you like 44K in earnings. If this was an interval metered account and National Grid included had a 15-minute meter and you had a cap tag eligibility, your savings go up to 100K. And earnings and savings when you stack all three together. But because cap tag's not there, it just limits the upside of just these two programs. So
How do we get to cap tag? How would we get there?
you would get there by talking to National Grid about having a interval metered account. You guys are a liner. You guys are close to probably being eligible, but there are also benefits of being a summary metered account. You're in a different rate case, and everything changes. Can change rate race if you go to an interval metered account. So I'm not recommending you to change. I'm not the expert on what happens contractually on your power supply purchase if you go from a summary meter to an interval meter. That's not my expertise, but I guess I know that because of the summary meter, you can't take advantage of the cap tag. When Mike and I looked at it, the one place that did have a interval metered account was the high school. So that can take advantage of the 3 stacking pieces there. But I go, that's not the focus of this call. But if you're talking to those guys, then hey, there might be some upside for them as well.
So Phil, just another question on that. So the summary meter versus the interval meter. So for my layman understanding, the interval meter captures the highest 15-minute usage, and then that becomes the base of your entire, how you're billed. So all of your kilowatt hours are billed under whatever that max value is. The summary meter, does that take an average of the day, or does it just capture the max peak at any point during the day?
Yeah, I think it takes the average, because it's basically all you're getting is the KW per day, and then the billed KWH per month. And all you're getting is, hey, this 70 KWH is used for the entire month. So it's just a complete monthly total value. And then so if it's a summary meter, all you know is just what you've done for the month. If you had a 15-minute meter, that means that instead of this chart here, I would actually show you 15-minute intervals from National Grid. It says, hey, what were you running at 115? What were you running at 130? What were you running at 145? That granularity isn't available on this account. And it's not bad. I mean, there are benefits to being on a summary metered account. It just limits some of the upside from some of these DR programs. And
Right. I'm just wondering if we went with a 15-minute average and say all of our stuff normally turns on at once, that's a huge spike in 15 minutes, and then that sets our rate for the rest of the usage. It could dramatically increase our bill versus doing a kind of a more leveled off peak through the summary meter.
I mean, to be honest, jumping between summary and interval, I don't want to say something that I'm not an expert on. And so I just don't know what the negative ramifications are between summary and going interval. All I know is that you can't take advantage of cap tag. And again, I maybe talk to National Grid, somebody on that shop. Hey, we want to talk about the pros and cons of being an interval metered account. Those are going to be the better guys than me, to be honest. And I don't want to stray you down the wrong path.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Brian, I guess the question would be, why did the school choose to be on that and none of the other facilities?
Well, it comes down to size. So sometimes you don't get to choose. If your load is above 200 kW or 250, by default you go to an interval metered account.
Oh, so there may not be an option. Okay.
Yeah. So for here, you guys are a liner. I've seen facilities of this size with this max peak of 200 be interval metered. So I just thought you guys were close. You guys could have been one or the other, and you guys were a summary meter.
Yeah, I think just a thought for the commission is, I think, a big reason why we go to, not constant duty and variable speed drives is so that you don't have that inrush when everything turns on at once, which sets your rate.
Demand charge. Yeah.
By going to a 15-minute, I don't know how the plant, and Dan probably can comment on how the plant starts up and operates, but at times I'm sure everything's running at once and your 15-minute is going to be really big.
Yeah.
So I'd hate to go to a 15-minute meter and then it's counterproductive, cost-wise. It just sets your electric rate higher than what it should be. And I don't know if that's reality. I'm just putting it out there for discussion.
Yeah, and again, I mean, my goal here wasn't to rock the boat and have you change the way you do business. What my mandate is to understand what your current capabilities are and then overlay demand response over them. Because you can buy power, you can do everything the way you want. My focus is just on the DR piece and then unlocking these revenues. And it could have been more on the cap tag side, but my guts tell me you don't want to rock the boat. And just if the generator is eligible to take advantage of these, if the 15 hours is economical, and you guys can come together and might say, well, geez, 15 hours for $45,000, maybe the juice is worth the squeeze, and that's fine. Not everybody's a perfect fit for these programs.
But you're saying we could save up to maybe $100,000 a year over the 5-year period, right? If we had that other.
But I don't know. Okay, I did say that. Yeah. But I don't know that's if you were interval meter to count. But I don't know what you're losing out on.
Yeah, it may cost us more to save more.
Exactly. So that's why, yeah. So I made that more as an example. If you had one of your larger accounts that interval metered, there's a lot more value in like the schools that have the interval metered account. That was just to show that I usually show the three pieces of the tripod here, and I usually have other pages here, and there's usually a savings thing on this page, but I couldn't do that on this one, so it limits some of the upside, and so these numbers probably don't look as sexy as I would have hoped, but I don't want to stray you and tell you you're going to earn more than what's realistic based on your data.
Yeah, it's not that promising. I mean, you can have the conversation with National Grid. That's always worth it. But your demands typically will peak the same time air conditioners peak for everybody else. So you're going to be using your most demand when the demand is at its highest. And
Yeah.
if you go to an interval meter account, that may not work in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, and I have about 40 Massachusetts, 30 to 40 Massachusetts towns. I just signed up a town this morning, and I've seen a lot of these. My gut's telling me this is not going to work. I mean, you guys can tell me, but I do need to analyze the generator, because even if you say, hey, we want to do it, I'm gonna send you over an Excel spreadsheet, and I need more of the gen specs, specific dates and sizes and stuff to analyze. And I mean, this could all be a moot point if the generator is ineligible. And Brian, to your point, I would not recommend to put emissions controls in retrofit here. The dollars are not going to be valuable enough to justify doing emissions retrofit here.
So the generator is at 350 kW. It's a Caterpillar, and I do have the model number if that helps.
Yeah, what is that?
3412 SITA.
SITA 3412, and then you said 350 kW nameplate.
Yes.
And then what was is it vintage 1999? Is that?
I don't have the date, but based upon bidding and everything else, I'd say it was a 1999 manufacture.
1999. Okay, so I mean,
I didn't receive use until 2000 though.
yeah. So I won't send the Excel spreadsheet now. I think I have everyone I need. I can get a really quick answer from because we've sat down with the Mass DEP, the EPA. We've created some matrices to figure this out really quick, so I can come up with a pretty darn quick answer if this generator is eligible. And if it is, then you can put your thinking cap on. If not, then hey, here's another program that you can think about for the future if something changes. And one important note, just for you guys, I didn't talk about this program, but if you guys are installing behind the meter solar, cogen, or fuel cell, I have a program called On Peak, and I can unlock capacity earnings for any type of distributed generation asset. So you guys mentioned you have landfill solar that's in front of the meter, which won't be eligible. But if you have behind the meter solars or cogens or fuel cells going in, I have some dollars that can unlock some additional savings. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I'll send this deck right after this, but I'll get to work and see if the generator can play.
Okay, great. And just one final question for my clarity. Anyway, that real-time data meter was not an interval meter from National Grid. It was your meter you were putting like behind or in front, probably behind our meter, just to get a little better flavor of how we're using. Is that right? So it's not used for billing purposes.
Yeah, it's what. So National Grid would install a KYZ pulse output, and then we would put a shadow meter, maybe the size of a shoebox, and mount it onto the wall and count the pulses right next to the utility meter. And then we have a cellular connection that it gets to us every 5 minutes. And cellularly, this is not for billing. This is a shadow monitor. So we're only shadow monitoring the load, and it's going to be revenue grade. So it's going to be very accurate. It's going to be plus or minus 2% of your actual usage, and you get this view. So hey, you might just go, hey, the DR dollars, hey, they're not that. They're there. It's some money for the town. We'll take some money for the town to exercise the generator, but maybe the real value is just having the real time usage and being able to really take control of your usage patterns, and maybe you get to learn some things about your facility you didn't know until you had just some real time usage here. Well,
I think one of the things, Phil, that you helped us with is looking at things like the metering and stuff, because I come from the data center industry, and we have branch circuit monitoring on every one of our circuits for every cabinet, every installation at all,
Uh-huh.
and including every air handler, every, you know, UPS, everything. And it pays for itself. I mean, literally millions of dollars a year to spread out our flow, see what, for instance, a crack unit or something, you know, large motors that are going on as to when they turn on, when they shut off, and we basically manage all of our you know, electricity in a fashion like that. And so I think, now that you sort of brought it up, that we can get hand meters, and we can do certain things to see whether or not some of the pumps and things that use a lot of power, and when they're coming on, that might be very helpful in us to managing our own electricity. You know, I saw a reasonable change there, and it would be interesting to know if at peak, you know, when we get I sometimes from a storm, that how much more effort it is taking for the pumps to pass more water through the process. But I guess most importantly, to find those items that are you know, that aren't working properly. You know, sometimes it's motors that are going bad and stuff that are just using up more power.
Yeah, I mean, I had a school district.
Think about
I had a school district install a meter, and they go, "Well, geez, why are we using so much on Saturdays and Sundays?" And I figured out that their parking lot lights were super inefficient, and they were all on, and they're just killing their weekend bills. They had no idea until they got on a meter and looked at the weekends in real time, right? Because usually it's just a bill at the end of the month. So, Wayne, you're right, and maybe demand response is a gateway drug. Hey, you make a couple bucks doing DR, but you get this meter, and you guys can glean some insights and be smarter about how you operate your facility. At the end of the day, that's trying to find ways for you guys to earn and save, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if our SCADA system that we put in has capabilities for monitoring power and stuff. I don't know that. So anyway, a lot to think about.
Yeah. So
You have a deadline, however. You have a deadline for signing up new people, or is that?
Well, the National Grid program, May 31, but they're going to have a roll-in enrollment, it looks like. The ISO program, there's enrollments on July 1st and August 1st. So we're kind of sneaking up on some deadlines in the summer. So and then it's not, if you miss a deadline for ISO, then there's a window to get in the winter as well. So it's not hey, you missed this and you're out for a year.
Mhm.
So yeah. And then so I'll send this deck over to you guys via email, and also I'll probably pick up the phone and just give a quick call over to my engineers just to double check the eligibility, and I'll give you a really quick yay or nay if the generator looks eligible, and if it's not, then hey Wayne, you're right. This is just food for thought, things to think about, right?
Right. But
I just have a question for Brian.
Yes.
We talked about whether or not to sign up for this last meeting, and you said that the decision was already made by the town to sign up everyone in the town for this program. So I guess the question is whether or not we're eligible for these credits, right? We're already signed up for the program.
So Michelle was going to sign up. She transmitted to, I don't know if it was to Phil, but it was to Mike Skinner, and basically to see who's eligible or what facilities of the town, including water and sewer plants, are eligible to sign up for this. And so that's in process, and it, you know, as it turns out, you know, maybe sewer is eligible or not, but it does seem like the high school is. So we're going through that, and I think there'll probably be a similar meeting with either the water commission or the school committee on those facilities. But yeah, Michelle is actively, she's already set the data to National Grid, and you know, to see what is eligible.
So basically, we're signed up for it, unless, of course, we find out that the generator is causing us to be ineligible.
Yeah, and you guys confirm you don't think you have the appetite to shed load, and if you don't have the appetite to shed any load, and the generator is not eligible, then my recommendation is not to sign this side up. Yeah, you made an approval, but I only want to sign you up if your generators are allowed, because I have seen the EPA come down and find people that enroll their generators out of line. So my recommendation would be, if the generator is not eligible, which I'll confirm today, that we do not sign up the site if the generator is the curtailment plan, because that just puts you in out of compliance, and I don't want to get you guys in trouble.
Great. Well, thanks, Phil, for all the info. And it's always a good discussion, even if this is not eligible, to go through just the thought process of how we use power and what it looks like.
Yeah, and then who's the contact? I mean, if I wanted to, have a similar conversation with the schools, who's the contact I can just maybe direct? Hey, I need to talk to Steve or whoever. Who's the school contact?
So you can send this to Lisa and then and me, and then Michelle Leary is kind of she's our procurement contract manager who's been spearheading this for the schools and the water and the sewer.
Okay. Brian will send to you and Lisa. And wait, sorry, there's one more. I already forgot.
Michelle Leary. It's
Okay.
the same suffix on the email, but it's first initial, last name, MLEARY @cohassetma.org.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch.
Great, thanks, Phil. I think if you could just unshare or stop.
Yes, sorry. I'll do that right now. See if I can find the right one here. There it is.
Great. So Lisa, I think you have the con.
Wait, can you wait? Shoot, why is it? Can you guys see my screen now, or am I gone?
Oh, you're good. You're off.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll see you guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
So do we have anything else we need to discuss in the closing moments?
I don't have anything.
Does our SCADA program have any measuring devices or capabilities and stuff, Dan?
I'm not sure. I'm sure it's expandable to do power monitoring.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could put some type of register on the supply lines and do monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that's a pretty straightforward thing to do. But talking about the emissions, this is before the era where the stationary generators were required to have better emissions. I would tend to doubt that you're going to qualify with that generator.
Yeah, but some of the things that I found out was, in order to qualify for our data centers, is we sometimes had to put a stack up higher in order to, let's say, an EPA standard or something was sort of measuring at the ground levels and stuff like that. So if the exhaust went up higher and it mixed more, then it was better for the better test results, or the better requirements. And then, of course, the whole idea of is, if it's an emergency, it doesn't have to be as good as something that is supposed to be generating power for a period of time for another purpose.
Right, and I think that's the issue, is if you're actually running the generator to save money or make money, that's different from an emergency use. So that's where I think it wouldn't be favorable.
Right, but be interesting to see. Sometimes there are so many things that you have something that's a generator will last 40 years, take care of it. But obviously in 40 years, there's been 1,000 different changes to make it more efficient, quieter, this, that, or whatever it happens to be. And it's almost like a sales thing. It gets to a certain age and everybody says, well, you can't use that anymore. It's time to buy a new one, and sometimes that hurts me. That there's usually some sort of an attachment that you can add to, for instance, an exhaust. You could filter the exhaust in some fashion or something to take out any of the particulates that you don't want up there. But anyway, so it'd be a good idea to check and see when we are doing our schedules. It would be a good idea to do a load test at some point in time on it, and it would be good to monitor the output of different things, to sort of make electricity anyway, try to get some value out of lowering our bills or something.
I mean, one thing to consider again is always solar too. They have some better looking things that can go up on roofs that might be aesthetically pleasing still now.
Mhm.
So there's been a lot of improvements on that end. You do have a large roof there.
And
Behind you.
I've seen shingles now that look just like 3-tab shingles that are all, they've got the little wires on them. And so if it comes time to reshingle the building, instead of having it the metal that's underneath it, that would be a great idea.
Yeah, they have Tesla shingles now, but they're a little pricey.
What's going to happen to electricity though?
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting whether or not they're giving us the same amount of money that it's costing us, or whether or not if you use the solar and you use it in-house, and then when you don't need it, it goes out. It's a different story. Okay.
Does anyone else have any other business or what have you?
All set.
No?
Oh, is there, we haven't got any updates on this Tri-Town sewer thing. I know, has anyone been attending any, have there been any meetings or anybody attending anything, town manager or anybody?
No, well, not that I know of. I last I heard was that they were waiting to get something with Hull. I don't know whether that ever occurred. I actually Friday when I was playing golf and I got approached by a friend of my brother's who went to high school with him, and his wife, no, excuse me, his sister is on the board, I think on the planning board. And so he talked me up and said, "What's going on with sewer?" I said, "I don't know." I said, so he may want a meeting with me, and I told him if that happens, it's going to be purely, unofficial. I'm not going to tell you anything that you probably don't already know. For us to get going is to have the 3 town managers meet and see if there's appetite for all of them to say, okay, let's start moving forward. Because how's the sort of lever in this whole thing?
Okay.
Yeah, I have no new updates either. I think our last discussion was the one with Bill and I and Situate and
Yeah.
town managers, and then there was supposed to be a follow-up between the town managers, and that's the last I know of.
So it's been a couple of months anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Could you check and see Brian, check with Chris, see what's cooking?
Sure, I will.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Paul Kears, second.
All in favor? Bill McGowan, aye.
Paul Kears, aye.
Wayne Sawchuck guy.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you later.
Good, bye.
Bye.
Have
Bye.
fun, Lisa.
Ah, thanks.